Coach, coming out of fall camp, what's the biggest accomplishment you think that this team made during those practices in the fall camp?
I think there's been a lot. I think we're becoming a team that understands, what our standard and what our principles are, and a team that's able to do that on a more consistent basis. I think offensively, obviously we're putting in a new offense in the spring, continue to expand on that. I think we're much farther along offensively. You know, that's my concern. Obviously, going into fall camp or going into the season is, where are we at offensively and comfort level with our quarterbacks and all those guys being on the same page. I think we've made a lot of improvements and strides in that regard. I think the leadership piece has been really good. Something that we've talked about a lot around here, and it's something that I see continuing to grow and mature on a daily basis. So pleased with that as well.
Talking about leadership defensively, what does it mean to have two dynamic seniors like you have at safety on this defense?
Well, it's big. Those guys played a lot of snaps together. They're two guys that I think kind of know what each other's thinking. They can give a look or a glance and be on the same page, and just to have that continuity in the back end is so important. And obviously, your secondary has to be in groove together, and we have that right now. But those two guys have done a great job. And I think Ray Lane's playing at an extremely high level. And B's been a little banged up last few days, but he'll be fine. But he's same thing with him. And those guys have been here for a long time. They know the defense inside and out, and so it's fun to see their progression as they've gotten into their senior year, and just how well they know everything. Their ability to teach the younger guys. They're kind of coaches on the field at this point, which is tremendous when you have that in the secondary.
I know in the past, Coach, you've talked about the plebes when they come to fall camp. It's like drinking water out of a fire hose. What have been your impressions of this class?
Yeah, I'm really, really impressed with the class. As you guys know, it's tough, going through plebe summer and everything that entails, and then coming into fall camp. Kind of compare it to walking into a calculus class, 3 weeks late, and you're playing catch up. And in fall camp, you can't slow things down. So they've got to be playing catch up the whole time. But it's a really, really good class. There's a lot of players in this class who are going to help us, not just on special teams, but within our depth on offense and defense. So I'm excited about the group. It's a really good class, a bright future.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Scott.
Wags.
This doesn't count as one of my 3 questions. Will you be releasing an updated depth chart this week?
So obviously you didn't read my email, Wags, because it said the first depth chart will be in the Bucknell game notes on Sunday.
Okay. No, I did not.
I addressed that before you even asked it because I knew it was coming.
That counts as a question.
That does count as a question. I agree. That's one.
Oh, come on.
No, go ahead.
So you mentioned about the offense. Do you feel the wing tee is ready for prime time, or is this next 2 weeks of practice going to be absolutely critical to get it where it needs to be?
Yeah, the next 2 weeks is critical. I wouldn't want to play tomorrow, but I feel like we're in a good place right now. And you're never satisfied where you're at as a coach going into the season. It doesn't matter where you're at, But been pleased with the progress. I think the biggest thing for us now is, we've been going against each other, for the entirety of camp, and now we're going to split up and start working on Bucknell. And so I think that's going to be good for us on both sides of the football. I think it's going to slow things down for us a lot offensively. Going against our defense in practice, you're getting every look known to man and every pressure known to man. And so I think things are going to start to slow down for them a little bit, which is good. But been really pleased with the progress. There's been some days we weren't quite as consistent as you'd like. Been a little bit up and down, but no, I think we're in good shape. We're where I think we need to be, but we certainly got a lot of work to do. Over the course of the next 2 weeks, getting ready to play.
And what about Blake? Is he still clearly the starter? And how would you gauge his grasp of the offense and ability to execute?
Yeah, I think it's a tight race. I think Blake's going with the ones right now, but Braxton's not far behind. I think they've both done some really good things. during fall camp. I think they both improved in certain areas, and I think they're both comfortable with what we're doing. We still got to work on decision making and all those kind of things and get better at those. But their grasp of the offense where right now is pretty good. I think there's two guys right there that we can win with.
And lastly, the offensive line. I mean, Coach Cronick had said that it's the most difficult thing was for the line to adapt because it's different from triple option. How do you feel the offensive line is coming along? Because they're the key, they're the engine. Yeah,
there's no question. I tell you what, after Saturday's practice, I was really pleased with that first unit. We've got 7 or 8 guys that are going to have to play for us on the O line, and they've certainly gotten a lot better. I think Coach Guillermo and Coach Laurendine, Coach McDonald done a great job with the O line, and we've got to establish some more depth at O line. Obviously, it's hard for those guys to stay healthy the entire year, but I'm pleased at where we're at, and I was really really happy to see some things that I saw on Saturday. Going against our first defense and some things they were able to do. So pleased with the progress there too.
Hey, Matt Hurst.
Hey, Coach, I'm going to go to the other side here. 10 of the 11 guys at the one line right now in your defense are juniors or seniors. That's rare in today's version of college football, but this has been a group that has set a standard for you. Have they hit the ground running with that same standard? And do you see that standard maybe even raising the line a little bit with this group, obviously with so much experience and obviously we know proven leadership on that side as well?
Yeah, I think there's certainly an expectation from our staff and from the players themselves of how good we can be. And I think they're doing everything that we've asked them to do up to this point. Really couldn't be more excited about that unit and the way they're going about their business. They've got some confidence right now. I think it's a group that knows each other well, that trusts each other well, played a lot of snaps together. I've got some older guys on that unit, as you mentioned. And I think, some of the lumps that those older guys had to carry the weight around here for a long, long time. And so I think you're going to see that start to pay off this year. And so, yeah, it's good to have an older group back, guys that play a lot of snaps. That along with the continuity on the staff and the system that we've been in, it's a good formula for sure.
Jackson Campbell has been a guy that in the past has been right there. He's been close. He's been knocking on the door. Obviously, other good players though in the room at that time as well. But what's allowed him to fight for that spot now and have a chance to make a meaningful difference on the defense for you?
Yeah, he's a guy that came in as a quarterback. Right. We moved him over and had high expectations. He's a really good athlete. Motor runs hot all the time. He's a physical player. And the thing that he's improved the most with is just his discipline, playing within the defense, not trying to make every play, getting his eyes right. And so he's made a ton of progress, and he's a very different player right now than he was a year ago in a good way. And so really excited about what he's done and some things I think he's going to do on Saturdays for us.
You mentioned Coach Guillermo a moment ago. You really don't know, unless you've coached with him in the past, you really don't know until you see these coaches in their element, how they go about their business on the practice field. As you've observed the new coaches on your staff that are with you for the first time, what have you liked? What have you saw from them that obviously made you glad now that you've seen them working, that you made those hires?
Yeah, well, I think they're all three exceptional. I think you mentioned Jay was the first guy you asked about. For a young coach, he's well beyond his years from a technical, fundamental teaching standpoint. Really, really sharp. I love his energy. You guys have been out to practice. You watch him coach. He coaches those guys hard, but he's fair. Treats them the right way. I think he gets the most out of his group. And I think what you want to see as a coach, you want to see your position group improve incrementally, and I think they've done that. And it's our job to get the absolute most out of the guys, and I think Jay's doing that right now. And then you look at David Cole, who's an outstanding teacher, another high energy guy. You see him chasing guys on the grass. Very detailed coach. and you see that in the players and the way that they're playing, and the pride they take, in that room. And then, I've talked a lot about Coach Cronick and just, all the things that he brings to the table as a guy that's been a head coach, for me as a resource, and just the way he leads that unit on that side of the football, just his demeanor. Really good football coach, calm. I think he's an excellent play caller. I think he's going to have answers for things that we see. I can't say enough good things about those three guys, what they bring to the table from a coaching standpoint, but also from a chemistry standpoint on our staff. They blended in right away, and I couldn't be more excited about the way that the staff has gelled, and those three additions have been awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
I think Carter is on kid duty, so he's listen only. So we'll go back to Scott Wyckoff.
Coach, with 2 weeks to go before Bucknell, how are things evolving with the new headset helmet communication system right now? And do you do kind of a dry run for that before that first game, just to maybe focus on that communication?
Yeah, we've used it through the entirety of camp, trying to get the quarterbacks used to the communication piece. And, we tried it in a few different defensive players, and I think we've landed on the way that we want to do that. We were in the stadium on Saturday. It was the first day that we've used our game day headsets, as well as the tablets, which is pretty awesome. So I start working through the kinks of that, trying to figure out the best way to use those tablets on the sideline, and that piece of the technology, and then we'll go in the stadium again on Saturday and have a mock game, and really hopefully work out all the kinks, before we open up. But it's been really good.
And was that something, did you think it was going to be as good as it has evolved into when you first learned of it?
Yeah, I think the player to coach communication, I kind of knew what that was going to be. The tablet thing is really good. It's a little different than what they have in the NFL. NFL, it's still shots. And, we're able to watch video. We're able to tag plays, things like that. So it's a little different. There's a little more you can do with it. So, but I think it's really good technology. It's going to help us on Saturdays.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Wags.
Once again, this doesn't count towards one of my questions. You said you landed on who you're going to use for defense with the headset. It's going to be Ramos.
No, I think we're actually going to go. We can do it a couple different ways based on the type of game that we're in. I think I really liked having it on Ray Lane and then Beatty. Ramos will have one ready to go as well. So it may be a combination of Ray and Ramos, and depending on the game week and those kind of things. So we've got some different ideas, but you kind of like having it on a back end guy. It's kind of nice. Those guys get to keep their eyes on the offensive personnel and start to see the formations take shape, and can get those coverage calls out really quick. It's hard for a defensive back to have his eyes on the sideline, get the signal, get his eyes quickly around, identify the things that we ask those guys to identify really quickly. Linebackers don't have to see quite as much. And so there's merit to doing both, and it'll really be based on game plan and the game that we're playing in.
Okay. You decided to continue with the David Forney having a lineman wear number 68. Ashley Ingram was kind of the guy that was the connection to the Forney family. When I thought maybe with him leaving, it might not continue. Do you feel like this is now a Navy tradition that goes beyond any individual, and that's why you're going to keep it going?
Yeah, I do. I was here when Forney was here, and I understand what he did for this program, the impression he left on so many people, and I think the old linemen take great pride in that room of wearing that jersey, and something I'd certainly like to keep going to honor him and source of pride in that old line room as well.
And you think Connor McMahon's a good choice for that?
Absolutely. Connor's had a great camp, had a great off season. He was a unanimous pick in that room to wear it, and he'll wear it well.
Do you anticipate playing any plebes? Not necessarily in the opener, but at some point this season, do you think there's some good good enough to earn playing time?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've got a list of 14 or 15 guys right here that could possibly play for us in this freshman class this year. And not just on special teams, but potentially offense and defense.
Thank you.
Pete,
Back to what we were talking about at the end of our last round, the teaching aspect of the game, just how, and for you individually, not even your other coaches, but for you individually, just teaching the game, how's it evolved during your, career as a coach, and how much have you had to evolve in how you teach the even the little nuances of what you're trying to get accomplished to your players out there?
I don't think that's changed a whole lot, Pete. I think it changes based on the kind of young men that you're coaching. Everybody learns a little bit different. When you get to the Naval Academy, you learn you've got really smart players that can take on a lot, but they also have a tendency to overthink things sometimes. And so I think it's getting a feel for, who you're teaching, who's the pupil, and the best way to teach them. And you're always looking for the best way to do that, even within a position group. Everybody learns a little bit differently, so you try to hit on a little bit of everything. You talk it, you're on the chalkboard, you watch it, and then you go out and you walk it, and you do it, and just the combination of all those things, and constantly figuring out the best way to teach. But that's always been the case. But I think it's, as a position coach, as a coordinator, how do your players learn best? Where do they get the most bang for the buck? And then obviously there's time constraints here. We don't get these guys as much as a lot of people do. And so being efficient with your time is extremely important. Being efficient, understanding how your players learn best and how they retain information. You got to figure that out wherever you're at. And it's different year to year, within your position group.
Just to clarify, do the headsets cut off at 15 seconds?
Yes, sure do.
The ability, and obviously I hate saying the words how important, because obviously it's important, but having this time, dedicating this time to helping Drew, PJ get a cadence and the timing down of what they want to say, how they want to say it, to their respective green dot folks, getting that cadence down. Is that something that's probably going to be each week as the season goes on, a developmental thing for both guys?
Yeah, I think so. I think you can try to simulate as much as you can in practice, and in the scrimmage and in a mock game. I think you get in the game, there's probably going to be some differences and some getting used to. And I think it's something that the communication piece between Drew and the quarterbacks. It's like you want to be able to talk to those guys, and how much information is too much information.
Right.
You got to let them play a little bit, and you don't want to be in their ear the entire time. I think it's good that it cuts off at 15 seconds. So it's understanding how much information to give them and not give them too much. But it's good, and just the more we do it, the more they get used to it. And I think the players love it. I know that, and so it's really good. And just figuring out how we can use it based on who we are and the way we call things to benefit us the most is the biggest kind of learning curve, I guess.
Awesome. Thank you.
open forum. Anyone have any other questions? Wag, Scott, Pete?
Well, I was going to ask something.
Go ahead.
It's a little bit off the topic, but your rival up in West Point announced another player coming back for a fifth year, who's a starter and a captain. Have you had any discussions with the administration about how you're going to combat this when your service academy rivals are, getting 5 years for their players?
Yeah, we have. I don't want to get into that during this interview, but obviously new superintendent, new commandant. Chet and Soup have had several conversations, and certainly something that they're open to. I don't know if we'll be as liberal about the way that we do it, as the other two are, but it's certainly been a point of discussion and something that I know she's open to.
like spill it when a senior gets injured and in the second game of the season kind of thing, maybe?
Correct.
Okay. Another topic that I think you've talked about this a little bit, but RB Green was talking about it. Are you finding that with the transfer portal, because so many other programs are loading up on transfer portal and not necessarily recruiting as many high school players, that you suddenly have access to a higher caliber of recruit?
Yeah, 100%. I think I've talked about that a lot, Wags. I think those guys just aren't getting as many opportunities, as they used to. And so, we've you look at the classes here now, you look at the class that we've got committed right now, it's just, it looks different than the classes we've recruited in the past. And, as a staff, we sit down, we talk about each different position, what we're looking for. We have a profile, from a metric standpoint, and we're not having to go out of that profile as much as we used to. I think we're being a lot more selective about the guys that we take right now, and so I certainly do think we're reaping some of the benefits of the portal right now in that regard.
And the one thing you would think with the portal is that you lose players, but aren't able to go get any. But really, you haven't really been hit hard by transfers. You haven't had mass exodus. Is that just unique to the Naval Academy? They get here, they love the culture, and they understand the future ahead of them, and it just transferring is not as appealing as where other kids are always chasing. Where can I start? Where can I get more playing time?
Yeah, I think so. I hope that's the case. I reference a guy like Ray Lane who had an opportunity to leave and could have gone to Notre Dame or UCLA or the SEC and elected to stay. And I think certainly part of that is the value and the reasons they came here in the first place, understand the value of the degree and wanting to serve their country. And I think another part of it is this brotherhood. These guys are really close. They don't want to let each other down, and so. Yeah, I was concerned about it, to be honest with you, when the portal first started to open up, but we haven't had a mass exodus, like you said. We haven't had very many leave at all, other than maybe a few disgruntled guys or guys who just weren't happy here. But really, it's been really good, for us in that regard.
Does anybody else have a question? I don't want to dominate.
I'll ask one. I don't know how much you delve into this with your team or anything like that, but as Scott amasses a lot of this stuff that comes in about the American and about college football as a whole, are you surprised, knowing what you know about your team, that some people seem almost dismissive of your team coming into this 2024 season?
Yeah, a little bit, but I don't put a whole lot into it, to be honest with you, Pete. You understand the logic behind some of the preseason selections and things like that, but I don't worry about that a whole lot. We're a little more concerned where we end up, not where people think we're not where people think we're going to end up, and so don't give a whole lot of thought to it. But yeah, a lot of it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's fine.
Wags, back to you.
Well, last one for me, Coach. Year two for you. Last year it was all new as a head coach. Now you've been through a full season, a full off season, everything. Do you feel really comfortable? And has there been some learning experiences that have led you to change things, or kind of talk about evolving as a coach now in year two? You've got to feel a lot more comfortable in the role.
Yeah, I think it's like anything else that you do, and year two of being a defensive coordinator, I was a lot more comfortable. And there's things you learn every year, right? And you grow as a coach, you grow as a person, and I certainly feel a lot more comfortable, than I did at this point a year ago. I feel like I know our football team a lot better in year two, and certainly you learn from your mistakes, and but I feel really good about, part of the reason why I feel so much better right now is because I feel so much better about our team and who they are, our leadership, our staff, and then like I said, you learn a lot in your first year. You know, you make some mistakes, things come up that you deal with for the first time, and you learn how to deal with those things better. And so yeah, I think I've grown in a lot of ways, and certainly more comfortable than I was maybe even 6 months ago.